the editor class has all of the functions that it needs. So it needs to inherit this slider listener class. So we add that onto the end. Note there's a little comma here because this is actually a list. And that exposes one function for our overdrive audio processor, this slider value changed. And that function gets called every time a slider is altered by the editor. As you can see, it passes in the slider we're going to do. And it has a little override because we're going to override the default that's given, which basically normally does nothing. We're also going to initialize a slider object. So we're going to make a class slider, and we're going to call it thresh slider or whatever. We make one of those for every slider parameter that we're going to display. Okay? So you could have multiple of those. So that all goes in the header file, because this is inside our class definition. The next bit goes inside the editor C++ file, because this is actual code. So we're actually adding in all these lines to our constructor. So just to quickly walk through it, the first one is add and make it visible. Quite self-explanatory. Add the threshold and make it visible. Pretty easy. The next one is setting the range. So what value can our slider take? In this case, we're going to go from 0 to 2.0. Pretty easy. Set value, we're going to set it to the value 2. Pretty easy. Set bounds is a little bit, maybe a bit more skewed, but it basically goes x, y, width, height. So 20 pixels in, 20 pixels down, 250 pixels wide, 20 pixels high. You can imagine that draws a box. Yeah, if we've got the upper left corner, we know how far out we're going, we know how far down we're going. So that's where our slider is going to be drawn physically on the screen. And then this little guy basically tells it to, each time you do a change, you're going to go back to this editor and you're going to, fire the slider value change. The next thing we have to do is actually define slider value change. We said we were going to override it, so we need to add this definition in. Okay? Make sense so far? Cool. At that point, you have a slider in the graphics. If you built it, put it in logic, run it, you would have a slider. Doesn't do anything yet, but there's a slider. The next bit is to get the processor up to scratch. So we go back into the processor, so processor.hvp, processor.cpp, and we're going to create this audio parameter float. This is something you should do even if you're not going to do sliders and GUIs and things. This allows the processor to expose to the door all the parameters that you might want. So if you're going to do anything with automation, this is how you get them out and visible. So we create this audio parameter float object, and we're going to call it thresh param, because it's going to be our threshold parameter. Come up with your own naming convention if you want. Yes?
Where does that go?
This is all inside the... So this one goes inside the header file, inside the private part of it.
And then above goes to processor.
This... Well, both in the processor.
Oh.
This is in the header of the processor, this is in the C++ processor.
That's what I mean.
So this is, you see, this is the constructor for our overdrive audio processor, and in there we're adding just one line. Bloody big line, but one line. So breaking it down, we're going to have to do add parameters. There's a bit of shorthand in here, so it's one line. Add parameter does what it says on the tin. We're going to add a parameter to our processor, and we expose. We're then going to say threshold parameter is equal to a new audio parameter float. If it's easier, put that on 2 lines. But basically, this bit happens first, and then we do our parameter. Anyway, we're going to make a new audio parameter float, and that takes 4 or 5 arguments. The first one is the common name of the parameter, so thresh. This is what actually gets exposed to the door. Okay, so maybe make it a bit better, but hey, thresh. Then we're going to give it some description, the clipping threshold. So any helper files or anything like that, they can read it. And then it's basically simply the minimum value, the maximum value, default value. They're exactly the same as we had on our slider earlier. Yeah, they had set value of set range of 0 to 2, set value of 2. So they both match up. Both their ranges are the same, but both of us starting from the same position. Wonderful. We then have to add it to our processor code. So as you can see, very sneakily at the top here, we've got threshold equals thresh param, and we're dereferencing it. So we're going from the audio parameter float, and we're just going to get the number out of it. Juce has very cleverly made that for us. So at that point, we're no longer reading our original threshold static value. We're now able to read this parameter value. So we're now one step closer to being dynamic. We could launch this code, put some automation on it, and it would now listen to the automation. So now we've got the first of the hooks.